Welcome to Forensic Friday.
where we examine the intersection of true crime, psychology, and the heart of being human in the middle of it all. So now it's just telling me that the young people, when they go out, say they're going to get feral.
I hope I have the terminology right. Maybe I don't.
Is it a Natalieism?
I don't think so. Who told me this? Do not bite me. My cat is sitting right here. If we keep
Aspen has been
going
assaulting Natalie like it's her job for
for like
days.
2 days.
I
I was
think she has a vulnerability hangover from comforting you after everything happened. No, I
maybe.
think she got too vulnerable. Now she's got to beat you up a little bit.
Well, lays right. Like, yeah, last night I was so sick of her after she attacked me.
Mm.
I was so over her. She was like laying in the bathroom on a towel, and I was like, "You do you. I don't want you cuddling with me." So then she comes and cuddles. She's literally right behind me. She has to be touching me all the time.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
That is
so,
borderline personality disorder. I hate you, don't leave me.
I'm so over her, but I love her. Yeah, I think it's here. I'm gonna Google this. Young,
Feral. Yeah, like a feral cat. Like go out and get
yeah.
absolutely not. I mean, that wasn't a good look on me at 20. If I do it at 40, it'd kill me. There's no way.
Hold on. Meaning of want to get feral. I feel like I need what's that? Like one. Okay, here.
Urban Dictionary.
Yes. How did you know what I was talking about?
Because we share a brain. It's
Oh
so
yeah, like
funny.
go get crazy, go act insane.
Go get feral, I guess.
So an example is, oh my God, Emily going effing feral someone. Get the spray bottle.
Get the spray bottle? Oh
That's
Lord
what it
have
says
mercy.
on this example.
Oh my God, Emily's getting feral.
It says, oh my God, Emily's going effing feral. Someone get the spray bottle.
You know what? You gotta respect it.
I'm gonna use that.
Feral.
Whenever my friends are acting up, I'm gonna be like, you're acting feral.
You're you're so feral right now.
It's so
We're
weird.
finally at the point, Nat, where we're gonna start using these things wrong and it's gonna be incredible.
Oh, I know. Well, we probably already are, but
Oh, I'm sure. My niece keeps me straight. She's like,
yeah.
yeah, you can't say that. Or yeah, you can say that.
My actual cat, she acts feral.
Your cat is insane. I must say though, when I came to see you,
She was nice to you. I was nervous.
so nice to me, and I was nervous. I came in, I was like, Aspen, we good, girl? We good? We're good.
I know.
We're
She's so
good. She was
good.
fine with me.
She was.
And I even smelled like dog, which you said sometimes will set her off.
Oh, yeah. She hates one of my friends.
Didn't you say she just beat up another cat like yesterday?
Yeah, she was trying to. I saw her doing it. She was stalking the cat. The cat was like old too.
Oh,
And so I went out there to stop her, and you should probably never stop a cat fight. But
no, you should not.
yeah, I mean, they weren't fighting yet, but yeah, she like freaked out.
So we were recording the other day and we got into this whole story and realized probably, I don't know, halfway through that it's really its own episode,
It is.
And
Hmm.
so we, which means we recorded for 30 minutes on something that we are probably not going to use, but
I know.
I think this is going to be a good one. We're calling this one a deadly fixation.
Hmm.
Let me set this up for you. So when you were in high school, did you have like a stomping ground place that you and your friends would go to?
Yes, it was Chipotle and Starbucks.
See, everybody has their place.
Hmm.
So my friends and my parents actually they would let me sometimes drive when I had a permit
Hmm.
by myself with my friends in the car because
Hmm.
I don't have to get on the highway or anything. It's literally neighborhood roads
Hmm.
to this place where there's a Blockbuster and a Walgreens
Hmm.
and something else. And you know what we would do is we would go to the Blockbuster, we would pick out a movie because that's what you did then, right?
Hmm.
You would, and then if you got there too late, they wouldn't have the one you want. Like that's what it was
Hmm.
like. So we would get a movie or two, all in our PJs, sweatpants, whatever, hot mess, listening to all the music, right? And then we would either go to Walgreens and get snacks, or we would drive down to the Safeway and get snacks and then go home. This was like
Hmm.
regular occurrence.
Right.
So this little neighborhood Walgreens became actually the site of a pretty terrible murder a couple years ago. And
Mm.
it's a really interesting case to talk about because of kind of how it went down. And
Hmm.
there's definitely some things to learn from it.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then my parents were on like next door getting all the rumors and all of that. So we're going to kind of talk about how it affected the community as well.
Yeah. I know some of it because we started it the other day, so I might jump in.
You can feel free to jump in. And I went to some better articles that really had the history, like Colorado Springs publications that had all of the details. So I think that's
Okay.
going to help us too. Okay, let's introduce the people first of all.
Okay.
So, Riley Whitelaw was a 17-year-old sophomore or junior at Air Academy High School. So, Air Academy High School is actually on the Air Force Academy base.
Yeah, I almost went there.
Same, that would have been my high school. My brother did go there
I was
and
gonna say, I'm pretty sure Eric went there.
he did. He graduated from Air Academy. And
Yeah.
it's such a cool school. I mean, how many high schools are on a base like that? But
Yeah. I mean, Eric and I would because I went to Cheyenne
yeah,
for the end of my high school,
yeah,
and Eric and I would like beef because of Air Academy and Cheyenne were rivals.
that makes all kinds of sense.
I know they were both really good at hockey.
Oh, yeah. And football and everything else, too. This sweet girl, Riley, worked at this little neighborhood Walgreens that I used to frequent. And my parents, that's where they would always get medications and stuff like that back in the day.
Hmm.
And so this girl, they called her Smiley Riley, they called her Sunshine, just a
Hmm.
really, really sweet kid. Ultimately her boyfriend and friends ended up working there. Like it seems like she worked there for quite some time, great employee and just a good kid. And I think a lot of
Yeah.
people knew her. And Colorado Springs is a big city, but it also feels like a small town,
Hmm.
especially different pockets. So like the D20 pocket, District 38 is kind of the monument crowd. Then you got down by Cheyenne, that's its own little pocket. But
Yeah.
those little areas feel small towny. So
Yeah.
many, many, many people knew this gal and knew her family.
Hmm.
So she was working at the Walgreens, and when she started working there, there was a man who was also working there named Joshua Johnson, and he was 28 years old. And he just was making her feel uncomfortable. He was giving her the ick. He was
Hmm.
kind of invading her space a little bit, made some comments that made her uncomfortable. I think you read that he'd smacked her butt at one point or something like that,
Hmm.
which, by the way, if that happened, like that's an immediate firing, right? Like that's ridiculous.
That's literally sexual harassment.
Absolutely. And so he made this girl feel very uncomfortable. So she did the really brave thing, especially for a kid. And she
Hmm.
went to the store manager and asked them to intervene. And
Hmm.
so the store manager, what was it?
Oh,
Zunino. I forget
Bonino.
his first name, but last name Zunino,
Hmm.
said he would talk to him. He
Hmm.
talked to Johnson and told him to be professional.
Hmm.
And he noted that Johnson appeared receptive.
Hmm.
Okay. He also noted that Johnson appeared to be acting a little bit more jealous when Whitelaw's boyfriend started working there.
Hmm.
And one of the things that's interesting is right in the weeks leading up to the incident, she asked to be moved to another shift so she wouldn't have to work with him. But then when she requested additional hours, they said, well, those additional hours, it overlaps with Johnson's schedule. So you're going to have to work with him these extra hours.
Hmm.
And so she was already doing something that she was maybe a little bit uncomfortable about because she needed the hours for work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. What are you noticing so far in your own self?
Well, I mean, I don't think the manager, I mean, I get that he attempted to switch things up, but I don't think they did a very good job.
I don't either. And the other thing that's really important is this is a 17-year-old kid.
Mm-hmm.
So not only is it a woman who's feeling uncomfortable in a workplace being harassed by
Mm-hmm.
this 11-year older man, this man's 11 years older,
Yes.
but also she's a kid. She's a literal kid. Like if a 17-year-old came into our office and said this was happening, it's reportable.
Mm-hmm.
It's reportable.
Yep. Yep.
So that's a whole thing. And I don't know how much, I don't know if HR departments are mandatory reporters, but I would imagine many people in a position of authority are. So I don't
Yeah.
know how that works, but that's reportable in our world,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
I think too, women so often don't take the step, especially a teenager, but even
Mm-hmm.
grown women, we don't want to make a big deal. We don't want to
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
can't you just see a teenage girl, them treating her like she's being a little dramatic, or
Mm-hmm.
I can just see that.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Well, and she reported him smacking her butt, right?
I don't know if the smacking of her butt, I did not see that in the official articles that I looked at, but I
Okay.
know you saw that when you were
Yeah,
looking at it.
I did see it. Yeah, I didn't say if she reported it. I don't know who said, I think it was her friends who said it in
Yeah,
the
she said he
article.
was making advances and he was making
Yeah.
her feel uncomfortable. And women know, we know.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think this was a savvy predatory guy, but he was clearly predatory. And so
Yeah.
we
Well, and
know.
that's the other thing though, like how long this was in 2022, right?
Mm,
That's the other thing though, is like we're still working on helping women speak up for themselves. So
yes.
she might have not reported him actually assaulting her.
She may have just said, I don't feel comfortable with him.
Yeah.
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 To not make
Because
it a big thing.
she might have been trying to protect him a little bit by not getting him fired.
Absolutely.
And women tend to do that because they don't want to like quote unquote air quotes, y'all, I'm air quoting, blow things up,
Oh, totally. Or
you
be
know.
dramatic or be overly sensitive.
Mhm. Mhm. I will tell you, if someone ever touched me in a workplace, their ass is grass. Like they're out.
I've only had one person ever smack my butt that was not, a
Welcome.
welcome situation. And I will tell you, my husband, it happened. Gare was there. We were dating, but it was this guy. We were hanging out at their house, and I think they'd been drinking. I hadn't really been drinking, but this guy smacked my ass, and I swear, it's the most mad I think I've
Mhm.
seen Garrett. And my husband, he doesn't get
Mhm.
mad. He
Mhm.
was mad.
Mhm.
And he doesn't have to defend my honor because I always get there first, but he was not pleased.
Mhm.
It's so disrespectful and it's just a
Terrible.
violation. I don't like when people close talk me, let alone smack me,
Yeah, no.
So I mean,
Mhm.
and I do know that there are some people who struggle with personal space, like they just don't get it.
Mhm.
That's not what this was. This was
No.
predatory and it was sexual. So
Yeah. Yeah.
there's that. Okay. So on the day when all of this went down, it was, I'm gonna make sure I get the date right. June 11th of 2022.
Okay.
So June 11th, 2022, Riley comes into work and she's working with Joshua. And there was another coworker, Rita Beverly Kreider, who
Mhm.
was working with them the day of the incident. So this is a very small store. So there were not a million people working. I mean, I'd be surprised if there were many more than three or four at a given time.
Mhm. Mhm.
So she mentioned and testified in court about a couple of things. The
Okay.
first is Riley was feeling a little bit like hesitant and apprehensive that day. So Riley came over to her. She was doing stuff in the little tiny beauty department where I've been a million times buying whatever.
Mhm.
And she said to Rita,
Mhm.
can I work here with you? Can I work over here with you? And she was being
Right.
very hesitant. So she didn't necessarily say Johnson was being weird, but she was clearly trying to be close to Rita and was not acting like herself.
Yeah.
And Rita said that's not normal for Riley to be standoffish and hesitant and nervous. That's just not how she
Mhm.
is. So that happened. And then the other weird thing that happened is Joshua Jackson asked Rita to tell Riley to take her break right at 5:30.
Mhm.
And Rita said that was also very strange.
Hmm.
That's not something somebody would normally do,
Right.
is dictated time. But Rita kind of shook it off. And at 5:30, Rita went up to Riley, who was working at the cashier, at the cash wrap, and
Mhm.
basically said, "Hey, it's time for you to take a break." So Riley heads on back to the break room.
Okay.
So one of the things to know that we know from surveillance footage was earlier, Johnson was seen putting boxes and bins up against the door in the break room. Like he was putting it against the wall and kind of next to the door.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. And then I know you read that they put a sheet over the window, but what I read in the court testimony was that it was paper. He taped paper to the window.
Okay.
So the bins that he stacked up were so that the cameras couldn't see him. So it
Mhm.
was blocking the camera
Oh.
view. And then he
Okay.
put paper up in the internal window in the store so
So
nobody
no
could
one could
see in.
see.
He also put an out of service sign on the restroom that was close to the break room.
Oh my gosh.
Hmm.
This was planned.
He had a whole plan.
Yeah.
And probably, to be frank, the fact that she wasn't working with him and then all of a sudden was may have put this whole thing into motion
Mhm.
because he had an opportunity that he didn't have before,
Mhm.
right? Okay. So she goes on back to the break room,
Mhm.
and the folks working in the store, they don't see Riley and they don't even go looking for her for a while.
Mhm.
Like it took time before they even realized these guys were missing, which is a little bit weird, but also if you knew this Walgreens, it's just dead.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's super weird though that they didn't suspect they're both missing.
They're both missing. Yep. And what they found when oh, what's his name?
Janino?
When Zunino actually went there, he went
Mhm.
to the store because
Mhm.
it's so weird that these two just like vanished.
Mhm.
He opened the door to the break room and they found her body. And there was blood everywhere and she'd been stabbed.
Wow.
Hmm. Technically, she was stabbed 42 times.
What?
Hmm.
That's
And she
wild.
had defensive wounds on her hands, and the
Mm.
cause of death was basically asphyxia wounding, which is a lack of oxygen.
Mhm.
In this case, I don't think it was strangulation. It might have been, but
Mhm.
I think it was more wounds to her neck,
Okay.
that then led to her
Wow.
not being able to get oxygen. Yeah. So the thing that's a little bit wild about this is some police officers found him walking along I-25
Mm.
near Trinidad.
Okay. Wow.
That is far
Yeah. How did he get over there?
from the Garden of the Gods exit. It is 137 miles.
How did he get that far?
I don't know if he hitchhiked
He
and
must have.
walked, and I don't know how close to Trinidad he was, but it
Okay.
says he was near Trinidad,
That's crazy.
walking along I-25, and he has scratches on his hands and face,
Naturally. Because
bruising. There's chunks of hair missing
wow.
from him. Uh-huh. And he was a strange looking dude to begin with, but with
Yeah.
chunks of hair missing and
Yeah.
whatever, he was looking a little bit wild.
Yeah.
So when the police talked to him, he tells the police he was fleeing because he and a coworker were attacked. So he tells the police, me and a coworker were attacked. I had to flee,
Mhm.
right? Well, they call Colorado Springs PD. Probably, I think it was State Patrol called Colorado Springs PD. And they're like, "Oh yeah, we're looking for him. He's the murderer."
Wow.
So they take him in, and when police responded to the Walgreens, when they found the body, there was an overwhelming smell of bleach in the break room and in the dumpster area.
Mm.
And then his mom, she's a piece of work. So she was all worked up in the courtroom. Like she and the
Oh, yeah.
prosecutor.
Yeah.
They didn't like each other at all, which isn't uncommon, but also like your son did the thing. So
Right.
calm down. Like sit down, lady. Like your son
Yes.
did this for sure.
Yeah.
The mom testified that he actually got home at like 6 o'clock that night. So remember, she goes on break at 5:30. He returned home around 6 and then left again. He
Hmm.
told her he was going back to work, but what we know is he was actually fleeing.
Hmm.
Now, the fact that he fled was helpful in him not getting a bond. He had really high bonds the whole time because he was considered a flight risk because he left the scene of
Yeah.
the crime, right?
He's
Which
trying to leave. Yeah.
exactly. So he was charged with first-degree murder, and all of the coworkers, all of these people were witnesses
Hmm.
in the trial.
I mean, I'm looking at his picture actually, and he's got hair missing in his mugshot.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, she beat the shit out of him
Yeah.
for him having a sharp object
Hmm.
and coming after her.
Yeah, he's got scratches everywhere.
She fought him so hard,
Hmm.
you know?
Hmm.
This is an exceptional kid. This is a brave kid who
Hmm.
advocated for herself like a grown-up.
Hmm. Hmm.
Things I would have had trouble doing in my 20s and 30s. She was doing at 17 by telling
Yeah.
them, I don't feel safe. I don't feel comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, they didn't listen. The other thing that's interesting, and this came out during the trial, when he talked to investigators, he admitted he had a crush on Whitelaw, but that it went
Mhm.
away when he allegedly began a relationship with the manager, Crystal Ishmael.
Okay.
But there was no evidence to support that claim.
That he started a relationship with her?
And then the crush faded away with Whitelaw. That's what he told investigators.
Okay.
But there was really no evidence for that. I will say I find it interesting that it was a manager. If there was anything going on with the manager, it might explain why they didn't take better action on this.
Yeah.
How frustrating that we have a 17-year-old kid who wants to pick up hours. She's worked there for a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
She complained the first time a year before she died. A
Hmm.
year before she died.
Wow.
Why would this girl not be given priority to get these hours? And my guess is he was a full-time employee. She was probably part-time because she was in
He's in
school.
school. Hmm.
And so I'm wondering if she was trying to pick up hours and instead of affecting his schedule, they told her, "Hey, you're going to overlap with this guy,"
Yeah.
Even though she was feeling uncomfortable and only weeks before her murder had asked to not work with him at all.
Yeah.
So I do think, I mean, he had thought through, and probably with what we know about offenders,
Uh-huh.
he had ruminated on, envisioned, fantasized about this for a very long time.
Right.
Hence the blocking the camera, the signs, he had probably been thinking about this for a very long time.
And we suspected the other day, or I did when we were talking about it, that he was just mad that she didn't like him back.
Isn't that always what it is?
Yeah.
You know?
Like an ego thing.
Yeah, it's an ego thing and it can become an obsession.
Hmm. And I'm not trying to be a jerk, but he like he clearly does not take care of himself at all.
Okay, this is what's funny.
And she's the cutest thing ever.
Well, and you and I don't talk about attractiveness very often because it's so
No.
irrelevant to our life.
Right.
It doesn't
Right.
matter. However,
But that's the first thing I like noticed.
ugly SOB. He just
Yes.
is. And I know that's terrible to say,
Super ugly.
but I mean it's like a little, I mean, granted I hate him because he killed Riley, but he's a little bit offensive. Like
Yes.
presentation. Like
Yes.
I you know how what they say about Brian Koberger, Moscow Murders,
Yep.
which we're gonna
Yep.
cover at some point. The look in the eye, just this kind of deadpan-y,
Hmm.
weird presentation. This guy had that for sure.
Yep.
He really did.
Right. But Brian Koberger, like, I'm sure you got the willies when you were like next to him, but
Mm.
looking at him, he doesn't give you the same vibe that this guy gives.
Well, yeah, this guy looks unwell.
Yes. Like he does not look okay. He doesn't look mentally good. He doesn't look physically good. Like
Mm-mm.
we always say like when one thing is really out of whack, really unhealthy in us, then the rest of them are. And that's clearly very obvious with him.
Well, and you have to know when he went home, his mom saw scratches. I mean, he had significant
Yes.
injuries, marks on him, injuries, the whole 9 yards. And she fought like hell. She had defensive wounds on her hands. I mean, she fought real hard.
I mean, dude's hair is chunks of missing.
Hmm.
Chunks. When I
Hmm.
first looked at his picture the other day when we were talking about this,
Yep.
I was like, he just got a really bad haircut because he's got like the like little,
Uh-huh.
shaved sideburn things or
Yeah.
whatever, like the little lines in his head. So I was like, this dude just got a really botched haircut. But no, it's because she pulled it all out.
She pulled a bunch of hair out,
Yeah.
which good for her, Riley. Give him hell, you know?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I have such issue, and I know we care about offenders, we work with offenders. I have a really hard time in these kind of cases having empathy. I don't know any of his backstory. I didn't focus on that because honestly, I don't care to in this one. This is
Yeah.
so offensive to me, this whole
Yeah.
case. This poor girl. And he was not insane. He wasn't deemed incompetent to stand trial. They didn't even mention significant mental health concerns, even though I'm sure they were present.
Yeah.
He just was mad that he couldn't have what he wanted.
Yeah.
And that's just awful,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So I think Riley's kind of inspirational in the way that she fought for herself
Mm-hmm.
all along the way.
Well, and really quick, going back to Joshua, I
Mhm.
mean, if his mom's fighting for him in court, like I get it, you want to protect your kid, but if you know that they did it,
Yep.
like this goes back to Wade Wilson.
Yes.
Like dad didn't want to turn him in, but he knew he had to.
He knew he had to.
And so it's like,
Mhm.
your son did it. He has all these defensive wounds. He's literally fleeing.
Yep.
That just tells me that the family's probably a piece of work. And where's dad?
I mean, this is what my mom said. Like
Mhm.
when this hit the news, first of all, this is not an area that it's not a high crime area. This stuff just doesn't happen in
Mhm.
this part of town. And
Mhm.
it was so upsetting to everyone. And then you have the Air Academy community. It was a really big deal. But my mom said on Nextdoor, there was so much chatter back and forth about the store management. We laughed the first time we were talking about this about how, you know, Zunino is the former store manager. Like, I'll bet,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know? And I didn't see if they sued Walgreens, but I would think Walgreens is pretty liable.
Mhm.
There are documented issues that she was having.
Right.
Why do you think they didn't protect her better, Nat?
I mean, I don't know. I think, sorry, this is maybe a little abrasive, but it's men who are running the store.
Mhm.
Oftentimes, men don't. I mean, you and I talked about this yesterday. Women, we just have to be a little bit more vigilant and like aware of our surrounding, and men don't necessarily always understand that. And so I think they probably didn't take her super seriously, or they were like, she's just being dramatic.
Yeah.
Josh is fine, like, yeah, he's maybe a little weird, but he's not going to do anything, like,
And I think he'd been there a super long time, so they're
yeah,
probably thinking he has some level of seniority. He's
yeah,
older,
yeah,
probably full time. But it's the man and the bear in the
hmm
woods conversation all over again. Men can't know what they don't know.
hmm
They can try. They could try a hell of a lot harder,
yeah, yeah,
but they're not going to know what that's
yeah,
like. So they
yeah,
look at this and they're like, "Oh, she's being a little dramatic." They
hmm
tell him, "Hey man, like keep it professional."
yes,
Done, right? They're like, "We're good." You know?
like we've cleared it up.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, think about it, like, our husbands are big dudes, and
Yeah.
I do know, I mean, Preston just walks around like he owns the place,
Oh,
and
Gare's not afraid of nothing.
no, yeah, like walks down
Doesn't
a
notice anything.
walks down a dark street. I'm like,
Yeah.
heck no, I'm not
Oh,
going.
absolutely. No.
Like I'm always super aware of where I'm at when I walk out of grocery stores,
It's
everything.
just heartbreaking to me when we talk about the gift of fear, having this instinct that
Hmm
this is not okay, this person is not okay, and I'm not safe with this person. You
Mhm.
take the step. She did everything right. She did everything
Yeah.
right. Walgreens just failed her.
Yeah.
They just failed her. The managers failed her completely. And I'm sure the store manager took the whole blame for it, but there's a lot to this that
Yeah.
didn't get addressed right. And one of the points I wanted to make in this episode is really for HR,
Mhm.
especially if you're a man listening, woman or man, but especially if you're a man listening.
Mhm.
If a woman comes to you with these kind of concerns, this is not fun. I think there's this like
Mm-mm.
myth sometimes with men, and we hear this in our groups sometimes where it's like, oh, yeah, I know men are terrible, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
And there is sort of this attitude that
Mhm.
women are just highly dramatic or
Mhm.
overly sensitive, or that we
Yes.
like the drama of having somebody be interested in us, like it's an ego thing or whatever. That's
No, it's
literally not
uncomfortable.
true. It's just not
Yes.
true.
I was talking to my friend today, and we are talking about when men catcall women,
Oh,
and it's offensive.
yes.
Well, in one of my groups, it was like an uproar in my group. It was insane.
I was there. Was this years ago?
No, you weren't there. It was Megan and
Oh.
I.
Oh, the man and the bear combo?
Yeah, that whole
Yep.
thing. But it didn't start with the man and the bear. It started with men just making uncomfortable, inappropriate comments while walking by a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was talking about like catcalling. Catcalling doesn't make women feel comfortable. It actually feels really offensive. And not offensive of like, "Ah, how dare you?" But it's like, it makes you feel more on guard.
Well, and my body is not for your consumption.
No, like don't whistle. But
No.
it makes you exactly. It's objectifying, which means you now don't see me really as a human, which
Yes.
is scary. That's a scary thought.
Well, it's objectification in the highest order.
Exactly.
And the thing that's so hard about that too is, men really, I've had this argument 1 million times with our clients.
Mhm.
They think it's complimentary. Like if you tell a woman, "Oh, you're really a beautiful woman," or you say, "Hey, that dress looks nice on you," or whatever,
Different.
it's not. First of all, I want to hear that from my husband.
Sure.
I love when my kid tells me I look beautiful. We
Yes.
we love getting that from the people who love us and who
Know
we
us and
know.
love us. Yeah.
Right? And if you're a man and you have a friend and you can say, "Oh, you look nice today." Like that's nice. But
Yeah.
men who you don't know or
Mhm.
who get very specific with their compliments,
Yes.
it's objectification. It does not feel good and women do not like it. You have to stop. Just
Yes.
stop.
Yes.
And I'm so heartsick thinking about this little 17-year-old girl trying to protect herself from the full-on advances of a 28-year-old man. It's
Yeah.
just wrong.
Yeah.
Don't you wish we'd just popped into that Walgreens and seen it happen? Seen that uncomfortable dynamic.
Mhm.
I don't know what we would do, but I wish I could have been there,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's so crazy. People don't like understand again, like when you have when your spidey senses are going off, that's saying something,
Yes.
and if someone comes and tells you about it, don't disregard that. Especially, especially, and you and I have a little bit of a different view on this, and that's fine. I think that's why we get along because we don't agree. Well, we don't have the same views on everything.
Oh,
But as a male manager, those
yes.
male managers should have been protective of her.
Oh, I agree with that.
Yeah. They should have been protective of her.
Yes.
They should have absolutely totally one,
Yes.
they should have fired the dude, but I get it. If she didn't report the sexual harassment, like
Right.
smacking her butt, okay, there's not much you can
You
do
can't
besides
fire
maybe
him because she feels a little uncomfortable.
exactly. But
Right.
they should have done everything in their power to
Yes.
protect a 17-year-old girl from a
Absolutely.
28-year-old man when she's feeling wildly uncomfortable. And that's the sad thing.
I know.
That's the sad thing. They should have been protecting her.
They should have been, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I
Yeah.
think it's it's maddening because we're so good at talking ourselves out of things as it is. So if there's a
Mhm.
barrier to keeping ourselves safe, it's easier to just not try.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I wonder in that year if maybe he did get a little distracted or maybe he backed off just enough
Mhm.
And then he was ramping it up again because just a few weeks before she died, she didn't want to be working at the same time as him at all. So something happened.
Right.
Something happened to
And ramped
make
up.
that bubble up again.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now the neighborhood was wild. The
Mhm.
next door because they wanted to like burn it down. They were like they wanted to demolish the Walgreens and
Mm.
either build something else there, build a new Walgreens. I mean, it was people were very, very upset about this. And
Yeah.
imagine to know that this happened to a girl in your community and you're driving by this Walgreens all the time. Like, yeah, I mean, it's not cool. They ultimately obviously did not tear it down. They didn't tear it
Mhm.
down. I do think they did some internal remodeling and some stuff like that because the employees were also horrified and traumatized.
Yes.
You know, I mean, they saw this. They saw her body, first of all, several people who were working there.
Mm.
This is someone they've known for a long time, some of them.
Mm.
What a horrible thing. You
Yeah.
know, there was a
Yeah.
memorial outside the Walgreens for a really long time. The family helped get a law passed because a lot of stuff got leaked. So the
Mhm.
police department got sideways with, I think it was KRDA. I don't know.
Mhm.
Allegedly, I
Okay.
don't know. I didn't write it all down.
That's
But it
okay.
got mad at one of the news stations for publishing the autopsy results, which was really damaging to the community, to the victim's family. It was a
Hmm.
lot. And so because of that, Senate Bill 23-075 was signed by Polis,
Okay.
and it's loosely called Riley's Law. It has a more formal name,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
Riley's Law essentially. And it requires that juvenile victims and witnesses' names and identifying information be deleted from criminal justice records that are released to the public.
Hmm.
And so that's big.
That's huge.
We work with victim compensation clients, which means they're coming because they've been the victim of a crime, and there's
Hmm.
a fund that offenders pay into,
Hmm.
and the state pays into to help these folks afford counseling
Yeah.
because they didn't
Absolutely.
need that counseling until you did the heinous thing that you did. So it makes sense that you pay into this thing to help support their therapy.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I did notice, and I didn't actually know about Riley's Law until I looked this up.
Hmm.
When there are juvenile victims, what I have noticed that names have been redacted and some
Hmm.
of that information has been pulled out of a lot of the police reports and stuff that we
Yeah.
get,
Hmm.
which I think is great, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's re-traumatizing to have to sift through that stuff all the time,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
They had a GoFundMe, they raised over 60 grand.
Good.
And some of that went to the Whitelaw Memorial Fund, which gave
Okay.
scholarships and grants to classmates that were graduating from Air Academy.
Oh, that's awesome.
I know.
That's huge.
She was a member of Color Guard.
Mm.
I mean, precious, precious girl.
Yeah. Pretty wild story.
Wild story and truly like a hometown. I mean, these are my stomping grounds
Yeah. It's north from where I was, but yeah.
for sure. And so I spent a lot of time over there. And I still get a weird feeling when I'm over there,
Mm.
knowing all of this. And so I wonder how the store's even doing, to be
I
honest.
was gonna say, I wonder if it's even open.
I know that my family, we don't use it anymore, haven't used it in a really long time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons for that, but
Yeah.
so maybe we can all be inspired by Riley to listen to
Hmm.
people when they're uncomfortable and try to help them feel safe, whatever that means for us.
Yeah.
So if you're in management, always listen. We had this come up not terribly long ago. There was somebody that was in our atmosphere. I'll say that. I don't want to get too specific, but Nat on day one was like, nope.
Oh
She
yeah.
just she just knew. She knew immediately. And I trust her implicitly. So even before I met this person,
I have good
I
spidey
had
senses.
gotten feedback, right?
Hmm.
So I saw this person, met him for 2 seconds. Before I even had a conversation, Nat was
Hmm.
like,
Mm-mm.
I'm not sure about this. And you
Hmm.
don't do that very often. That is not an
No.
overly suspicious negative person, but you
No.
were not having it.
No.
And then there were some inappropriate things that happened. And I mean, I can
Yeah.
honestly say it's probably the most formidable and intense I've ever been in my
Yeah.
career,
Yeah.
because it was about protecting people we really care about.
Yeah.
And people did end up getting hurt,
Yeah.
this person. And so I
Mhm.
think if you're working in HR, if you're a manager, if you're a teacher, if you're anybody who has authority to protect, I hope this is a good reminder.
Mhm.
Just listen and believe. We need to believe
Mhm.
victims. There are the Sherry Pepinos of the world, but they are the minority. They are
Yep.
not,
There's very few of them.
there's very few of them.
Well, and I mean, even for women, like I know it's not always the most inviting to share your experiences, but do like tell a manager, tell
Yeah.
someone if you're uncomfortable or if someone makes you uncomfortable or if someone's having inappropriate conversations with you at work.
Yes.
You are not inviting that,
Oh, yeah.
right? If you are uncomfortable, that shows that you aren't in a position where you're saying, "Yes, please, let's talk about this or let's do this."
Oh, yeah. Well,
Right?
let me
And
tell you, when it comes to male managers, right, we're saying have some awareness,
yes.
keep your antenna. But a lot of men, if they find out that there's a 17-year-old being mistreated, they're going to intervene. A lot of
Yeah.
men would intervene in that situation.
Yeah.
In corporate settings, what I have found time and time again, and there's some research to support this, women don't back each other up at work.
Hmm.
They don't always back each other up because we don't want to be associated with the hysterical person.
Yeah.
Women have to fight so hard to be taken seriously
Yeah.
that sometimes when women report abuse, they end up in a very lonely, isolated place because
Yeah.
the women around them don't want to
Yeah.
risk the heat of standing with them.
Yep. So I won't say any names. In college, I worked for this place and first of all, there was three managers and then obviously like a chef, a head chef.
Right.
And two of the managers were fine. One of them was super creepy and just wildly inappropriate
Mm,
and would toe the line, like borderline of like sexual harassment, but he probably wouldn't get in trouble for it because it wasn't necessarily.
yeah.
But there was a situation
Mm,
with the head chef,
mm.
and there was a report made, and the girl was fired.
Oh, oh, you hate to see that.
Here's the thing, I worked there.
Mm.
I had big boundaries.
Oh,
I
yeah.
would check who was managing, so I would be a little bit more vigilant
Yes.
on my surrounding
Yeah.
and be mindful of all that. If it was a couple, the two managers, I was like, okay, it's good. If it was the one, I was like, that sucks, but I'm gonna be mindful, and I never really had too many interactions with the individuals in the kitchen, but I've heard many, many stories, and this
Oh,
girl
yeah.
just had the guts to report, and then she ended up getting fired.
Which is just freaking awful.
Yeah.
Well, and I had a similar experience when I was working at a restaurant in college. There was somebody working there who was pretty forward with most of us, like
Hmm.
most of the women who worked there. And he was a little bit older.
Hmm.
He was in leadership. I don't remember his exact title. It doesn't matter. It was 100 years ago. But when my female boss finally got wind of it,
Hmm.
she took it to corporate and beyond. I mean, he got
Good.
fired, and I mean,
Hmm.
it was a lot. And I remember feeling really protected by that. And it was a really good management experience with a woman who took it seriously and told us to always take it seriously. And she was
Good.
probably in her late 30s, and I'm like 18. And
Right.
she's telling me, you
Mm.
always tell. And I was like, oh, okay, I will. And I do.
Right.
But I think a lot of times it doesn't go that way.
I mean, clearly it doesn't,
Mm-mm.
you know. There's more cases that it gets brushed under the rug, or the female gets fired, or the
Hmm.
dude gets a slap on the hand.
Well, and the most mind melting part of this whole thing is I have seen women, strong women,
Mhm.
question themselves,
Mm.
second guess talking about it, or they open up about it and then they're immediately panicked about what's going to happen to the other
Mhm.
person.
Mhm.
And it is heartbreaking. And it was interesting when you and I did our presentation this summer.
Mhm. Mhm.
One of the comments we had was we were asking men to sit in the discomfort
Mm-hmm.
of how women are hypervigilant, have a little bit of rage, all this stuff. And the men were so uncomfortable in the room, which we've talked about.
Mm-hmm.
But the women immediately jumped into rescue mode. It was like boom, 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 boom. Well, men
Mm-hmm.
also have blah, blah, blah. And we're like, nobody said they didn't.
Right.
Nobody said they didn't. But women are often the ones
Mhm.
making this work, and we have to take care of each other.
It's okay to be mindful of the fact that they don't have our same experience, but that's why we educate,
That's right.
right? Like that's why my husband now knows I don't take the trash outside when it's dark.
Right.
I don't do it.
Yeah. Not because you're lazy, but
No,
because it might not be safe,
right.
you
You know,
know?
and it depends on where you live, but I mean, my direct neighborhood is fine, but right outside of my neighborhood, it's not that fine.
Mm-mm.
So you just never know. And he doesn't, he's never fought me on that. But
No, he wouldn't.
no, but it's like that she just knows, like, my wife's not gonna go out, take the trash out late at night when, she doesn't need to.
Mm-mm.
Someone could be wandering down the street.
Well, and the other thing that I appreciate about you, and we've talked about this so many times, you're a runner. I mean, you're an outdoorsy girl, you're a runner, all the things. You're always really mindful. I've watched this our whole friendship.
Mhm.
You're thoughtful about those things, and women cannot control what happens to them.
Mhm.
All we can do is make our best effort to protect
Mhm.
ourselves. It is never a woman's fault if
Oh
she gets
yeah.
attacked, right?
Yeah.
Never.
I mean,
Be able to just be safe in the world. That'd be great.
yes, yes. But I mean, I made us get a treadmill. That one was a little
Yes.
bit of a battle because my husband was like, anytime people get treadmills, it just ends up as
Hmm.
furniture that people hang their clothes on. But I use it. I mean, right
You
now, even
do.
though I'm not running right now because my body's still healing, but I walk on that thing,
Oh, I know you do.
and he was like, that's the best purchase we've made when it comes to fitness equipment for you. But it was a fight at first because he was like, go walk the safe trail over there. And I was like, I have to drive there to walk it,
Absolutely.
and so finally he was like, all right, we'll give it a shot. And we made a deal. If I didn't use it for like, if it went 6 months without being used, we'd get rid of it. And even after all my craziness, I still use it.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because I think women feel pressure
Hmm.
to just kind of make it okay and do the
Hmm.
thing and be big and brave. But the truth is, I think women are aware that we are unsafe most of the time. And so I was thinking about how all the women in the office get a little pep in their step in the summer.
Hmm.
And it's because we work evenings many
Yeah.
times, right? And so I think some of it is we all feel better when it's light when we're going home, right?
Yeah.
Also, though, it feels safer when we're going
Like
home
outside.
and it's
Yeah.
light.
Yes.
So I don't think that's like a huge mystery. I think it's connected.
Yeah.
It's all connected,
Hmm.
you know?
Hmm.
Well, thanks for talking this one through with me again with all
I
the
know.
information this time.
I know that was helpful.
I'm just glad that Riley was able to have a bit of a legacy with the scholarships and a
Hmm.
law that makes a lot of sense to protect minors' information.
Yep.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Bye, forensic friends. I'm Janine,
And I'm Nat.
and as always, thanks for listening and join us next week for more crime, psychology, and heart.